Welcome to episode 3 of the OMG podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Strati, and this is our very first Therapy Thursday. This is where we get deep down into our emotions and all of the heavy stuff that happens in our lives. We talk about it here. And the purpose of doing Therapy Thursdays, this isn't where we come every week to whine and complain about how shitty our lives are. That's not the purpose of this. This is for us to come here and not feel judged. This is where we can learn different ways to handle different situations, whether it's stress, trauma, childhood trauma, anxiety, depression. This is where we talk about all of those things. And you send me your emails and you send me your DMs letting me know, like, this is what I'm going through right now. What advice do others out there have for me? What advice do you, Lauren, have for me? Or you can just send it just to get it off your chest, just to vent it to me, because maybe you don't want to burden your wife or your husband or whoever with it, because you feel like you've already talked enough about it to them, but it's still hanging on. And you're still dealing with it. And you send it to me and we talk about it here. And maybe you realize that you're not the only one going through a situation like that. And you don't feel so alone. And maybe somebody has a solution for you that you didn't realize or you didn't think of. Or you have a solution for them and it helps. You're able to help somebody else through sending what you're going through to me and having me talk about it. And I really want this to be where you can go and just it's just like sitting on a couch with a friend, just letting everything go, releasing what I've been through, knowing I'm not going to be judged, knowing there's only going to be love here. And this is also a place where that friend will call you on your bullshit. Will be like, listen, you keep talking about this, but what are you doing to tackle it? Or if you're feeling like, oh, I've been dealing with some grief for this amount of time, like, shouldn't I be moving forward? And this is where I feel like I am hanging on to stuff I shouldn't, and you feel like you're being judged or you're doing something wrong. This is where we talk it through, and you can hopefully come out of these episodes with a sense of relief, feeling that you are okay. You're gonna be okay. You have another additional support system to go to help you handle these things. So that is what I want from these episodes. I really want to help everybody who listens to these. I know the topics can be uncomfortable because they will bring up things that you don't want to think about. They will bring up things that have been pushed down or pushed to the side. And I'm not saying to harp on what's going on, all the negative things all the time. You don't want to live in the negativity, but you don't want to hide from them either. You don't want to hide from the negative emotions that you're going through. You want to deal with them and then go through them and release them. But if you bury them, which I've discovered both things, burying your feelings and the issues and then also living in them can cause some very serious negative effects to your psyche, to your brain, to your mind, to your heart, to your body. And so come here and talk through it with me, through the DMs and the emails and the comments. Talk with me about them, and we will help each other navigate through this crazy life. So in this episode, we are going to talk about stress, trauma, and self-image. And I think that stress comes in there's all different degrees of it, right? There's stress from family, kids, spouses, work, just life, sports for kids. There's stress from just even working out is stressful on your body. All these different, your health issues, things like that. There's all sorts of different things that we experience that can be stressful or be traumatic, and they affect us in different ways. And I think that we are just so used to being stressed all the time that, and it's just something like, well, that's life. Life is stressful. I get it. Believe me, as someone who is trying to no longer call herself a total stress case, I was a total stress case all the time. So I get that stress is a part of life, but you can't just live in stress all the time. When you have to become aware of how you handle stress. And I feel for me, like I went through some very stressful times, and just think back to something that you've gone through that may have felt or may have been traumatic for you. And you can feel it like already in when you think about something that you've gone through that has caused you pain, you start to feel it in your heart. Like your heart beats a little differently, and your spine, you can feel like your spine getting a little sweaty, and you're like, oh God. Like that's the stress coming back up. And I know we've all had those moments, and those become kind of part of us. And I think that if we don't release that stress, if we stay in it for too long, it becomes a part of us. And you're going to hear me quote Dr. Joe Dispenza a lot in these episodes, especially when we're talking about stress. He is, if you don't know who he is this doctor that he makes you realize that you are more powerful than you realize. Your mind and your body are so powerful and can really transform you and improve your health, improve your life, improve everything about you. But it can also damage you. Like, you don't realize how much your thoughts and emotions affect you and how they can affect your physical health and your mental health. And he just explains that, he goes into more scientific detail about what it does to your brain, and we can get into that in a different episode. But basically what he says about stress is, he says the hormones of stress in the long term push the genetic buttons to create disease. So the longer you are stuck in a stressful state, the more your body feels it, and the more negative effects your body feels from it. So there are consequences to constantly being all the time. And it creates your hormones change, your DNA changes, everything changes when you're stuck in that, basically in a survival state. You're not meant to be in that stressful survival state forever, but your body can get used to it. That's what happened to me. I had multiple stressful events happen within like a 7-year period. So I had my mom pass away, and my mom, this is where you're going to get to know me a little bit, and you're going to get to know me pretty well with some of the things that I've gone through. We lost my mom in 2017. The way she passed away was very, very traumatic. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And again, we'll go into more depth about that and grief in another episode. But she passed away in front of me, my son, who was 2.5, my husband, my sister, and my brother-in-law on my 32nd birthday when I was 6.5 months pregnant with my daughter. It is a moment that I relived and felt over and over and over again for months. It was like I was there, and I just tortured myself. I just put myself in that over and over again. And so it became like a part of me. And so my body reacts to certain things now that remind me of that time. And I've learned now I've understood what happened, and I've accepted what happened, and I'm able to deal with the stress and become aware of my reaction to the stress. And then I can kind of shift my reaction to what is triggering me to start feeling those feelings again. And that's, I think, a huge thing is when we go through stressful times and those moments become part of us, different things can trigger those emotions again, and we're right back in that survival mode. We're right back in that situation. And we need to learn to recognize that and break the pattern, break that cycle, and become aware of it. Like, oh shit, somebody said something about their mom, or somebody said something about this or that, or hospice, or like whatever it was for me. Like, and I was back on that day, and I was like, wait a second, that's not what's happening right now. I'm not reliving that. She's gone. It's okay. She's with us. It's, she's always with us. And you just have to just take a second to realize what your body's doing and tell yourself that you're okay. And you ease out of that survival state, and your body just readjusts, and you're fine. And I went through a few different times like that. Like, those reliving that day lasted for a long time. But then I had my daughter, and so I had her to focus on, and my son, and our dogs, and my husband, and I had all these positive things to focus on after she passed away, which helped me deal with that trauma. But then I had a situation a few years down the road that caused me, like, I made some mistakes in my life, and I understand now why I did what I did, not realizing that the reason why I was self-sabotaging a situation was because I didn't want to be in that situation. So I put myself in this situation that caused a lot of drama and sadness and stress, and I lost friends of mine because of this, and my whole world was turned upside down. And I sat in that stress, anxiety, trauma, sadness. I sat in all of that, like all of my mistakes. I sat in that and felt it for months and months and months. And I punished myself more than I realized because of this situation. And that situation and what happened became a part of me. And and I'm still dealing with the consequences of that. Like, my body is. I put myself in such a state of survival, and I punished myself so much that I completely threw my body out of whack. And I didn't realize how much living in that stressful moment and reliving it, how much damage it had done to me until years later, until just recently. And there were other moments where I had lost friendships, and I was holding on to all of that because losing those relationships or those friendships brought me back to that massive moment where I lost those friendships, that big time of trauma. And so I was just, not only was I still holding on to that, but then I was reliving it, going through these other things, not realizing that not having those people in my life was actually a good thing. And part of me knew it, and part of me understood, part of me knew that had to be done. I just didn't do it the right way. And it took me a long time to realize that with the amount of stress I was feeling, I knew something was wrong. I knew, like, okay, you were holding on to all of this stuff for too long. You've treated your body so poorly that it's now trying to control you. It's holding on to weight. I was so stressed out at a certain time that anytime it was too hot outside or too cold outside, or I had cinnamon or anything, my face would break out in a rash. My body was so angry and upset with me. I was gaining weight. I could not lose the weight. I'm still struggling to lose that from that time. And I know I'm not the only one that has gone through these things. I know, and you think, especially if you're in your 30s or 40s, like, oh, it's just us getting old. Like, no, that's bullshit. That is a cop-out. That is bullshit. If you are struggling with something health-wise and your doctor says, oh, it's just that time, it's just, when you turn your head and cough, when you get your breast slammed in a machine, like, it's just time for you to take your statins and check your cholesterol and your blood pressure and blah, blah, blah. Like, all of this stuff is just normal. No, it's not. It's not. You can't just ignore what you've gone through in your life and just think that, and I don't want you to. And I'm not trying to tell you what to do or how to feel, but the stress and what I've gone through the last few years, I've realized has affected me so much. And I look at other people that are going through different health issues, that are going through different emotional issues, and I know some of the stuff that's been going on in their lives, and I just can't help but think that those things are happening because there's something deeper in them that isn't being handled. And this isn't to make you feel guilty or anything. This is the truth. This is my experience from, like, what I've dealt with. And I have realized a lot about myself, and I've learned a lot through these traumas, through this stress. And I realized how much the negative thoughts and the self-sabotage and the punishment I've put upon myself has really affected me, and it's spread out to my family. And I don't want anybody else to deal with that. Or if you are dealing with it, I want you to know that you can come talk to me. You can send what you're going through to me. And it is okay to let that stuff go. It is okay to become aware of it and realize, shit, like, I've been feeling this for a long time. Like, I went through this car accident or this breakup or this issue with my family, or I'm feeling this about my spouse or my children, or this event that happened 20 years ago that's now coming back up. Like, I've felt this stuff and I'm having these issues with myself physically, and I wonder if there's a connection, because I haven't been able to release these negative emotions, or I'm constantly in them. And that could be true. It's not just, things don't just happen to us physically because. And I know that people want to say that, oh, it just happens. It doesn't just happen. Energy has to go somewhere, and if you don't deal with that negative energy, or you let it grow inside of you, it's gonna go somewhere. And for me, it went to my face, and it caused those rashes. It went to my hormones. It caused me to have crazy like pains in like during my cycle and stuff. It caused me to have vertigo. It caused me to gain weight in places I had never gained weight and not be able to lose it. It caused all sorts of different things. And then what happens when you have that crap happen to you? More negative emotions. And you just become addicted to that crap and you just live in it. And it's, even though it's uncomfortable, it becomes addictive, right? And we just have to, your brain creates these chemicals where it's just like, okay, well, this is how you've been feeling for a while, these negative thoughts, then okay, that's just what we're gonna create more of. We're just gonna create more of because that's where your body feels safe now. And you have to become, I've learned, and I'm still learning, and I'm not perfect doing this by any means. Doing this podcast has shown me that. But trying to become more aware of those negative emotions and those negative thoughts. Like, if you were to hear some of the negative thoughts I've said to myself, like, it's not great. I have beat myself down pretty good for the way I look, for the things I've done, even though I am not the same person I was 4 years ago when, 3 or 4 years ago when those things happened, or even a year ago. I am not the same person at all. That version of Lauren is gone, but I still beat myself up for her, and I still punish myself for her. And I have learned that I need to be more aware of those thoughts, and I catch myself now, and it's been really helpful to just even start small, catching yourself like, oh, I'm so stressed. Like, even just saying that, like, I can handle this. Like, I know I'm stressed, but this is just temporary. I can handle it. Or thinking about yourself, like me, like saying something negative about my self-image. I'm disgusting. Like, that was a phrase that I would say, and I would tell my husband, like, I'm so sad. Like, I'm disgusting. I hate myself. And it hurts my heart to even say those words out loud. And because, like, I just picture, what if my daughter said that? What if my son said that? And I would never in a million years want them to feel that way. And I don't want you to feel that way. And I don't want me to feel that way. But it's when you say it so much and you look in the mirror and you repeat something negative to yourself so much, you start to see it and you start to feel it, and it becomes fact to you. But if you can do that with negative emotion, you can absolutely do that with positive. And your body will fight you on it. I guarantee you, your brain, which is now like your body has taken over your brain, it'll fight you on it. Because it is like an addiction. It's like, no, being in these negative emotions is safe. Being here is safe. This is what we're used to now. This is what we've done for the last however many years. But if you find some way to quiet your brain, and like for me, it was meditation. And I'm not saying like, I don't expect any of you to start meditating or anything like that. Like, trying to get my husband to do something like that wouldn't happen. He's found other ways to help ease his mind that work for him. And I suggest you try and do the same. For me, though, I got to a point in my life where I was so stressed out and so unhappy that I felt like my body was starting to shut down. And this was just recently. This wasn't very long ago. My family goes to Tahoe every year, and we were in Tahoe, and we had a family photo picture session coming up, like where it was going to be my husband, me, and our 2 kids, and we were going to get our pictures taken. And I was not happy with my body, And I absolutely hated it. I hated everything about me. I hated the way I felt about me. I hated the hate. Like, it was just a crazy cycle. And I had this cough that would not go away, that caused me to have pain in my teeth. Like, it was like everything was just piling up, and just, it was too much. And the Tahoe trip, like, I felt like shit 99% of the time. I did not feel myself. I did not feel good. And I was just like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing this. And so I started reading Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I can't remember if that's the title or not. I may have just butchered that, but I think it's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself is what it's called. And it's like you retrain your brain and your body to chill the fuck out and to realize that you can be happy and healthy, and you have full control over your happiness and your health, and you have full control over changing those negative emotions and dealing with them, and then having the positive emotions come in. And Tahoe was what pushed me to really figure my shit out. Then having the photo session and seeing how I looked so inflamed in some of those pictures, and I just knew I was now carrying all of this stress from the last however many years on the outside now. And my husband's like, oh no, like, I can't, like, you're beautiful, blah, saying what husbands are supposed to say, whether it's true or not. Like, I know my eyes see differently than his, but I saw these pictures, and the depression hit me, the stress hit me. Like, how am I like this now? And I was so upset and in such a bad state of mind, and it was not great. Like, I'll be really honest with you. And we'll go into depression, and I'm going to use the term unaliving oneself, because I don't want to get banned off on certain platforms, because you're not allowed to say that particular word about unaliving oneself. But I was at a point where I was so miserable, and I felt so awful for being like that with my husband, and it was getting to my kids. Like, I was not myself, and I did not want to be here anymore. And I had this moment where I thought to myself, of all the stress I was going through and everything, like, I just wanted to be nothing. I wanted to be gone. I wanted to be nowhere. And what's funny is Dr. Joe says that we are basically 99.99999% energy, and we're like nothing. We're 99 point whatever percent nothing, and then the 0.0001% we are matter. So I couldn't do any of, whenever Dr. Joe would talk about becoming no one, because he always talks about becoming no one, nothing, nowhere. So you let go of everything that's holding you back, and like your body, your emotions and everything, and you just sit there and you just be. I could never do that. And so I've had his books for years, and I've tried his meditations before, and I could not get myself to be that, because I'm like, no, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm like, I matter, I need to be the matter. And when I had that very dark time where I didn't want to be around anymore, and I just wanted to not exist, it hit me like a ton of bricks. You literally want to take yourself out of your children's lives and your husband's life and be nothing, but you can't sit your ass down for an hour and just imagine that you're nothing. Imagine that you're just in space. Like, how could you want to do this terrible thing and not be willing to do this thing that could potentially save your life and improve your life with your family? And it just, boom. It was the strangest thing. I snapped out of it. I snapped out of that because it was a really, really, really bad place, guys. Like, it was not good. And I've had those moments before, but this was really, really bad. And I will go into another episode. I'll talk about it more deeply about what that involved, because I think it's important. I think that people think it's kind of a taboo subject when we talk about unaliving oneself, I think. But it's happening so often now. I think that it's important to discuss. And as someone who's experienced those thoughts, I think it needs to be talked about. But when it just so funny, like, it hit me, like, you literally, he's asking you to become no one, but basically he means, like, just become everything, like, just be in space, just let everything go about you that's bothering you, and just let it go and just sit. And I was like, okay, I have this really bad choice, this not so bad choice. What am I going to do? So the next day I decided I was going to start meditating. And so come Monday of that, it was a weekend. So I started Monday, and for almost, I think, 2 months now, is it 2 months? I think so. I've been meditating every single day for an hour. I get my ass up an hour before I have to do anything else, no matter what, and I meditate. And it doesn't, like, for me, and you guys can choose meditating if you want. There's tons of stuff on YouTube if you want to use those videos to help you meditate, or you can just sit and listen to music, or go to the gym, go for a walk, something, go to church, whatever brings you peace that's healthy. Don't go, like, snorting some cocaine and, like, that's what makes me feel good. Don't do that. I mean, something healthy for you that feels good to you. Do that, and just sit with yourself and realize the negative emotions, the negative things you feel about yourself aren't you. Those aren't you. Those stresses aren't you. Shit happens, stress happens, but there's a lot of good things in your life. There are a lot of good things that you need to stick around for. You are worth working hard for and making yourself better. You are worth training yourself to not live in that stress. Yes, stress happens. Yes, we have kids and jobs. Some jobs are super shitty. Things are hard. Finances, all of these other things. There's all these things that we can just let hammer us down and down and down, and fuck with our health and our mental state and our relationships. And there are all of those things, but there are also so many good things. You are a good thing. Everything you've been through, everything you've survived has led you to here, and you deserve to thrive and not just survive. You deserve to feel the positive emotions and make yourself switch from being negative to being positive. And again, I'm not saying be positive all the time, only think happy thoughts. Like, you know, it's not Peter Pan. Like, I'm not asking you to do that, but I'm asking you, when I have a negative thought about myself, like, you know what? That's not true. Or I'm working on improving my stress level, so that issue I have with myself goes away. Or when I look in the mirror, or I put on an item of clothing that I can no longer really fit into, and like, you know what though? But my body's taking care of me. I may not be the same size I was 3 years ago, but I'm healthier now. I have figured out why I did those things back then, and I'm grateful for that version of me showing me why, and I'm grateful that I'm no longer that version. And it's okay. I am okay that I'm still here, that I am making these changes, and I hope to be this version of myself down the road where I am more comfortable with myself. It's okay to be where I'm at right now. And it's okay for you to be where you're at right now. And I just think that we have to deal with those negative emotions but not let them eat away at us. And they can. And they started to eat away at me. And it's really scary to think of what would have happened had I let them continue to grow and to continue to take over. And making that one change to just like to do meditation. Like I sit there and I breathe and my mind wanders all over the frickin' place. It goes everywhere. It's not like I'm just, Dr. Joe will be talking and I'll be like, what the hell did he just say? And because I don't know, because I zoned out, but I'm here and it helps just even 52 minutes a day. I'm doing this one thing for myself that's not working out. It's not something stressful. It's just for me. It's just me with myself and Dr. Joe and the music. And it's calmed me down a lot. It's helped me deal with my stress. It's helped me create more of a positive mindset for myself. And I don't want to go back to those negative feelings. They creep up. They definitely do. Like I said, doing this podcast has for sure, which is why I'm doing it. I'm pushing past the being uncomfortable here. That's why my husband was like, do you really think that you should do the video podcast? And I was like, well, yeah, I talk with my hands and my face a lot. I use my emotions through my face and through my hands. And I want that to be shown. But every time he would set things up and I look at myself, I'm like, nope, I hate myself. I hate it. But I started doing the meditation. I started stopping the stress so much. And I just did it. And it's not easy. Still, like, I will watch this video back and I will pick myself to bits because that's just something I'm still working on. I'm trying not to do that so much. I'm trying to just let things go. But you're a work in progress always. You don't think that this is a linear journey. Like, you're gonna go all over the frickin' place. You will have shitty days where you are super negative about yourself and you're like, well, I'm back to where I started. But come back at the end of the day before you go to sleep and think, okay, this is what I did. I did not handle things the way I feel I should have. If I encounter that stuff again, how am I going to do it the way that my ideal self would handle it? You know, and that's helped me. Like, especially, I went a solid 3 weeks without losing my shit on my kids. I was really proud of myself. I didn't yell at them. I stayed calm, even throughout whatever was going on. And I was like, man, I am doing great. And then one thing happened, like a bunch of other things happened all at the same time, and I lost it. I was like, God damn it. I was doing so good. And I sat with myself that night and I was like, okay, I made some mistakes. But you can feel the shift in your body when you're used to handling, or you're used to being in that stressful state, and then you kind of force yourself out of it. You can feel the difference. Like, this feels better. Being calmer with my kids, being in a better state of mind about my body, and not talking negatively to my husband about my body. Like, that's, like, they do better with that, right? My husband was kinder and more patient with me, and just our relationship got better. My kids were doing better because of how I was conscious of not letting those negative emotions get to me and not letting the stress get to me. And I was very hyper aware of the stress and made sure like, okay, I know this is happening and I know this typically would cause me to react this way. I'm going to choose to not do that. I'm going to choose, and I plan ahead like, okay, this is coming up. I'm going to choose to react this way instead, or say this positive thing about me instead. And it breaks that pattern in your brain. It breaks that cycle of negative stress and trauma and anxiety and bullshit that we've been living in for so long. And when you revert back to it, like, because your body's going to want to do it, when you revert back to it, you can feel like, yes, my rage. And it feels good for a second. And then you realize the effect it has on you and how shitty your body feels after that, or the people that you react or go off on, how they react. And they're like, what happened to that awesome version of you that you were just like for weeks before? And you realize, that may have felt normal and my default setting, but I like this calmer version of me better. And I need to work hard to stay that way. And eventually I know that that's going to be my default setting. And it will be. And I think that I just feel like stress can really mess you up. And yes, again, it can't be avoided, but there are ways to handle it better and to not let it eat you up and not let it change you for the worst. And I, for years, let stress change me for the worst. And my biggest hope is that hearing me talk about the things that I've been through and the way that I handled stress poorly helps you to handle it better and to not let it become an addiction and to not let your body stay in survival mode like mine did. And because of what I did to myself, I punished myself really, really bad for those mistakes that I made and those stressors and those traumas, because I thought that I deserved those things. I thought I deserved to be punished. I thought, and my body, and I punished my body. I wouldn't eat. But I would work out. And then when I started to eat, when I started to realize I wasn't treating my body right, my body decided, hey, now that we've been in survival for so long and you're actually feeding me what I need, I'm going to hang on to all of this stuff in case you lose your shit again. And I'm still like trying to let my body know, like, we're okay now. We're not in survival. And you have to keep reminding yourself of that because life isn't going to stop throwing you curveballs. Life isn't going to stop having stressful times and moments, but you can sure shit change the way you handle it and how you treat your body when that happens and how you treat others when it happens. Because do you want to look back? And that's what I was thinking when I made this decision to start meditating. Like, do I want to look back at these years where my children are growing up and think like, wow, I was a total stress case that absolutely hated myself and my body. And I just spewed that out to my husband and my children, and I took it out on everybody? Or do I want to be like, you know what? I went through that hard time, those stressful years. This is what happened to me, and I overcame it. And I think that if you just give yourself the time to think about how stress has affected you mentally, physically, your relationships, and give yourself permission to deal with those stresses and those negative emotions, and then realize how far you've come in life and give yourself permission to change for the better. Isn't that worth it? Isn't taking the time to just sit there and realize you don't have to be in a constant state of survival and stress, and you can, no matter where you're at in your life, you can find good things about yourself and good things about your life and focus on those and know that you are worth being loved, you're worth being here, you're worth being healthy. It took me a long time to see that for myself, and I hope to God that whoever gets to listen to this, whoever chooses to listen to this, that hearing this from me makes it easier for you, and you don't have to go through years and years of dealing with your own trauma and stress and the damage that it does to you. And having me go through this helps you get through your stuff faster and become your ideal version of yourself faster. And that is truly what I hope happens from this episode. And we're going to do more episodes about stress and trauma and anxiety and all that stuff. And we're going to talk more about it and how to deal with it. You're going to hear a lot more about Dr. Joe, because for me, he's changed my life. The way that he thinks is just, I resonate with how his brain works. And find somebody who does that for you. Find something that eases your stress, and do that. Make that time. And whether it's a walk or just sitting listening to music you love, or something where you can think and start working on changing your thoughts from being negative to positive, and picture how your ideal self would talk to themselves. Like, my ideal self would never, ever tell herself that she's disgusting or want to take her own life. That is not something that I see her and I can picture her, and that is not something that she would ever do. And so do that for yourself. Imagine who you want to be, your ideal version of yourself, and how would they handle these situations and the stresses and your self-image. What would they do? And focus on trying to become more of that person. And I think that will truly help you handle the stress and anything else that gets thrown your way. And I really look forward to having more of these episodes with you guys where we get real deep, and of course our Menagerie Mondays. And I hope that you will email me, DM me, comment on here, and send me anything else you want to talk about, whether it's this serious stuff or it's something about Menagerie Mondays, retro stuff, nostalgia, any of that. Send it my way, and I just cannot wait to get deeper into this with you. I will see you on the next episode. Thanks, guys.